You know, the case in which you talked about, the case with the Rafiki, I was in Texas, in Galveston, when the vessel broke the keel off because of poor workmanship on the repair. It wasn't the manufacturers on the repair. So, as I said, Lloyd Griffin, you want to see the sun rising in the morning? That's what I'll see tomorrow morning. Keep on going. Keep on. This was my date I couldn't find until the next morning. Keep on going. Don't you give me the mouse. That's what was left behind, I think. I could keep on going. And then this is what I dealt with 2 weeks ago. Keep going. Great meal. Great. Next picture. So I worked for an attorney in bankruptcy court a couple weeks ago. And if you go to slide number 1, it's the order from the judge. Worked for an attorney there trying to determine the value of a vessel which would go into bankruptcy for a fellow. This is the document, 74 pages. There's a lot of information which I did not know about, which I had to learn about. Preferred mortgages, ships titles, and the word where the attorney said, can you state seaworthy? And I said no, because I can only say it's fit for intended use or suitable for intended purposes, just like what the attorney just said. However, as you get into these documents, you start having to figure out what do you have to do. And talking about CFRs, and you can't make this up. The first day I went to the boat, I inspected it because it was for a haul out. This is the first letter. You can go to the notes there if you want to. And this is the letter I got from him giving me the order to go to work, which I was very thankful for because it really did pay pretty good, I think. But what happened is that I inspected the boat before the haul out, and I found it had 4 broken frames in the front and 3 keel frames in the back. As a surveyor working for a trustee of the federal court, go to number 2. The court, I advised my customer I was not going to haul the boat because we did not want the liability or the responsibility once we relaunched the boat. That was pretty significant because not only is it an old Trumpy, and I'm going to show you some pictures of how it's built a little bit later. I had to do this inspection 3 different times because we had to work with mechanics, we had to get boatyard people, and we had to make sure that the boat wasn't going to sink when I left. So as I went through the whole process of this, my attorney asked me to go through my report. Maybe I gave you the wrong one. Go back. Back up. Well, yeah, we could go to notes. Just bypass that first page. So I did that inspection. I walked through the boat. Just keep going. And go to the next page. And this is what we came up with. That's the repair order, which will come up. That's what there we go. Nice old piece of Trumpy. Historical boat, but she's not been taken care of, but she ended up in a lawsuit. The owner of the vessel sat 2 weeks ago in the federal case and said that my paint wasn't peeling, my cushions weren't moldy, the boat wasn't, keep going next page, my bow of my boat wasn't rotten, the window frames, they was telling me all how great this boat was, but however I had to document. Finally, the judge stood up and said, sir, talk to the fellow about value. He saw the condition of the boat on that day, talked to him about the value of the boat. So if you go back up to the first page. So what we had to do during this, come up with value, I had to come up with, how many can you do a boatyard estimate for repairs? Can you? Have you been qualified in federal court, Chris? I had to get qualified to do this. So that was the first thing that the judge did, that my lawyer I worked for. He qualified me as an expert. He also qualified me for carrying custody of a boat in a marina. And the third was he qualified me for establishing the value of a vessel. Pretty significant, ask your attorney here, about having an expert that stands up before the judge, can sit there with confidence, with enough ass underneath of him, who's been there, done that, probably tore up more shit than most people in this room, but this happened. So we came up with this value. This was what I felt was the estimate for repairs with all the rot and all the other stuff. The owner of the boat says he left everybody holding about $36,000 worth of repairs. If you go up just a little bit more, please. There you go. Thank you. So we had to add in the haul out, which was separate. So I estimated about $90,000 worth of repairs and about 15% of a contingency. Why did I add that 20% contingency? Because I don't get all of it right every time. I get close. If you're within 10 to 15% from the boatyard, you're doing pretty good on an insurance claim. Ask those that do insurance work. So we roll up a little bit more. This is what was determined was deferred maintenance. Because like sanding and painting the hull, which he said was done 3 years ago, doing the deck repairs and just just the basic annual, about $73,000. So as I went through, go to the report, as I went through this document, I had to come up with some kind of semblance of order. Remember what the attorney said? You got to have a method of your madness when you present to the judge. So I wrote this nice long-ass document. And so I had to go, should be, and not on page, it's in the number 3. So I came in here, that's okay. So what we did was, we had to comply a little bit of a survey, like an appraisal of the boat. And then we get down here, there you go, just keep on going and go all the way. Here's our nice little report, documenting the boat, just keep going, 46 pages of grueling, painstaking work. Keep going, we're going almost all the way to the end. We'll probably go to page, slow down just a little bit. We'll go to page 10. Oh, there we go, page 10. And what this has to do with ABYCs and CFR findings, I'm gonna show you in just 1 minute. Oh, stop right there. Trumpy, abstractive vessels, soul boats, which we've been fighting over. This abstractive title, which earlier was talked about, how do we keep track of titles for boats and stuff? The Coast Guard has an abstractive title of every time money is taking place or transferred on this boat. So there's an abstractive title. That's when the boat was built, sold, value. This is when it was sold to the family, the person that bought it. They put $355,000 in it, came up with a new value of $500,000. This is what he left holding the boys up and down the East Coast. There was one more in here. That was about $12,000. Go up just a little bit more. Keep going. Yacht World, soul boats, abstractive value. Use the, how many of y'all are familiar with the Martin scale or the INA scale? We use it, or should be. So I used that in 2002 when this value of this boat was $500,000. I had 17 years of depreciation. Depreciated it down to $328, left me $171,000 of value of this boat. Pretty good swing and a miss when sold boats, the congregate or aggregate of listed and for sale over a 15-year period was about $170-some thousand. I thought I was pretty close in that number. We do the deduction of $90,000, leaving a value of $80,000. Then we do the deferred maintenance over a 2-year cycle. We'll just go up just a little bit more. That's what I felt the value of the boat was. Got liens of about $35,000 or $40,000. That's how I came up with that number. So why is it important to understand ABYC findings or CFRs, and you can't make this stuff up, is because when I sat before that judge, that's how he qualified me to be an expert in the federal court system. If you go to page, back to my actual report, number 1, or 0, go to 0. All right, that's what I was sitting there looking at until 11 o'clock, and I had to catch a plane at 3. But keep going. So now what we're going to talk a little bit about, what do we think are some of our big findings? This boat, the running lights weren't working, but according to this, there is a change now in the rules, international navigation. Those rules have they've come together now under the same standard. So if you keep going up, please. And what you'll see is you're going to see that's the rules, what they're supposed to look like, and this is what we're finding in the field now. Not only on that boat, just keep going. That's the rules. Keep going. You'll start seeing some beautiful pictures. How many of you see this every day? LED lights. Coast Guard, very specific, says if one of those bulbs is burned out, it's not in compliance anymore. It's done. Has to be new lights. Keep going. The most difficult light in the world to replace. Brand new light, less than 6 months old. This would come up. Airplane lights. Hockey pucks. All the airplanes have them. Non-compliant. Block lights, block vision. Keep going. This here. Running light is here. Radar is here. How many of y'all see that? That's every day, isn't it? So not only in court do we have to use this and define what we're doing, we're using the same type of documents as we go through the court system. Keep going. Ooh, great. I just did this boat this week. Light was on. Couldn't even see it. But there it is right there. So what do we do about that? Because what does the Coast Guard say the separation between the running lights and the anchor light is supposed to be? Chris? 1 meter. What about the mast light or the running light? There's no restriction. It has to be 6 inches below or something like that, below the anchor light itself. But if you go get a set on a sailboat mast where they got a tricolor light, it doesn't comply because there's no separation between the two. That's some little rule that I learned out not long ago. Just keep going. That was kind of a, say we're back to obscured lights. So if you're fishing at Oregon Inlet or wherever you fish up here, you see these boats coming by, you don't see any lights, you might see one little red dot. It looks like somebody's lit up a cigarette riding by you, but keep going. Tugboats. How many do tugboats in here? Big vessels. Hold right here. Stern light. Angle of vision. Here's the other side of it. 2 trash cans. Running light blocked behind the stanchions because the vessel, their ocean inspector said running lights need to be, this was inside, they had to move them to the outside because they had to have stanchions. It's running light on the mast, blocked by all the radars. Is that compliant? No. But the Coast Guard has inspected this vessel under their volunteer inspection program, and all this is passed. This is where I saw somebody was in the Coast Guard earlier talking about the Coast Guard. I have a lot of problems with the Coast Guard right now. Lack of training, there's a bunch of bull. But the problem is those that are training are full of shit because they won't get off their ass and come out in the field and do their job. So here's a little piece of 22-foot Hancock. This is what we see. Whoever does the outboards, this is every day. But you can't run that boat at night because the Coast Guard rule says you have to have lights for night operation. One. Another one, no run steaming light. Keep going. How many of you are seeing bar lights? The greatest thing in the world to light up Oregon Inlet Bar at 3:30 in the morning. But it's the worst thing is when he comes up from behind and light and blinds you. So what are you supposed to do about that? Flick him with a bird or catch him at the dock? That's usually what happens. So, but this, so not only does he have that light, now stop. Now, this is the other thing. So there's 3 things that cause a boat to sink. What are they, Chris? Water, water, water. Or neglect, neglect, neglect. All right. So the first one we saw, if the running lights are not properly working, you probably get T-boned, especially around the dock or in a harbor. The second thing that we see a lot of is fire suppression. And I get schooled on this on a regular basis. How many of you lost a boat to a fire? Anybody surveyed a boat and went down with the fire? What about them tugboats? Last year we had Mark Busby from MARAD come to our meeting. He gave 4 cases, of which the surveyor could have been directly involved in that and prevented maybe 2 of them. One was a fire on a headboat on the Gulf. Can't remember what the other 3 were. It's kind of a whirlwind right now. But so I get in this big argument and pissing contest with Hatteras Yachts, their chief engineer this past couple of weeks. But he argues with me because he's got these 10-pound fire extinguishers all over the boat. Who surveys Viking 61s and 64s and 67s? Y'all do? What size fire extinguisher in those cabins? Todd? Little bitty ones, right? 3-pounders? Hatteras? 10-pounders throughout the whole boat. Got 8 or 9. I mean, it's crazy how many they got. They spend, but one fire extinguisher fits all, except for one cabin. But so this is kind of the rules, which we have to play in the sandbox, because this is what the Coast Guard says. If you would go up a little bit further. Keep going. Oh, stop. Bait wells, glove compartments. All right. Hatteras in their Cabo or 45, they put a 3-pound fire extinguisher in the cockpit fish box because the rules say they have to have one in the cockpit. I call bullshit on it. I think it's just some kind of thing Hatteras is making up. If you would keep going. Right here. Ooh, stop. That is right. We're using right. That's their practice. And I got a statement on that too. However, as we talk about minimum quantity and type of extinguishers, large numerical ratings, and multiple designations, how many of you know what a 20B is and a 5B is? In here. Had to learn about that. You know, Chris? It's 5B and a 20B. Right. It's the type and it's the size. The volume that it holds for the 20B. So as we start looking at who does uninspected passenger vessels, like these little T-boats running around, it's kind of significant when you go on board there and the guy's got 2 2-pounders inside and he's got 1 5-pounder outside. all out of date. So, if you would keep on. So here's the CFR for the government regs. And then as we come down here, this is where the challenge came up with this customer of mine. This boat, here's the gross tonnage. It's between that. It only requires 2, minimum of 2 portables. I got 8. Keep going. And then they got the rule about the horsepower. Anybody know about the horsepower rating? I'm going to tell you about this here in a second. Keep going. How to get copy a bunch of this stuff in here. This is the ABYC guidelines. This was a 65-foot sport fishing boat. The new fish tank. You'll be reading about it hopefully soon. Keep going. But this is a good reference to where things are supposed to be and what's supposed to be there. Huh?
That's a good table.
That's a great table. I've had it a while, but it kind of gives you a good idea of like what should be in these general areas. Scroll up, please. Keep on going. This is my greatest quote. Hatteras fire extinguishers in every stateroom. 10 pounds. See USCG code. 4 10-pounders located in all berths. 3 4-pounders located in the port aft stateroom. And then this is their statement. Greater than 65 feet, 4 10 pounds, for 3,800 horsepower, 2 10-pounders, and then helm and galley, 2 2.5 pounds, total of 6 10 pounds. Now, how many go on a Viking and you don't see that on there? You go on a Neptunus, you go on a Horizon, you go on all these other yachts and you don't see that much fire suppression. It's a good thing, but it's not. It's pretty painful when you got to go and inspect it and you fight the battle with them. If you would keep going. Great. Where's that picture taken? Engine room. Where's that taken? Center console will help you with that one. Keep going. Where's that one taken? Flybridge, right? All right. So custom 41, what I showed you a minute ago. Right there. Keep going. Stop. Coast Guard regulation says readily accessible, right? But they also have to be mounted. Have to be inspected. This one was in the upper step. That was in the bottom step. No fire suppression in the engine room. Keep going. Beautiful. Just got off this boat yesterday in Texas. Right there. See any signs of a fire extinguisher in there? That's it right there. 2 pound. Keep going. Stop. Step. Fire extinguisher right there. Who knows about the fire triangle? What the fire triangle? What does the fire triangle need? All right, very good. Okay, so when we open this hatch up, what happens? Right on in there. What happens if the vents on the side of the boat are not sealed off? You know, in them big boats, you know, you got dampers to shut them down. But that's the 3 pound there. 3 pound. Now look, Hatteras is they're 2 10-pounders in their boat right there. Keep going. Pump room right here. There's the access right there. That's the fire extinguisher that you drop down on to put out the fire in the pump room. However, back to the fire triangle. Who's going to climb in that hole with the fire? I mean, where's the damn common sense in this, guys? Keep going. Underneath of the galley, the cooktop was right here. So you're going to go get your fire extinguisher running here with a fire right there. People lost their mind. Keep going. That was normal. That's in the forward closet. But it usually has life jackets and all kinds of shit on top of it, like the owner's stateroom. But the next one, I think, it deserves that you can't make this shit up award. Do you see this? Head, fire extinguisher, and toilet plunger. Randy, that would qualify, wouldn't it, for the you can't make this shit up, can you? Huh? That's right there. That's a pretty good one there. Those who come to my meeting, I would submit that one to participate in that. Yeah, but you probably can flush that through the gas situation, man. All right, keep going. And then this was the master stateroom. Of course, this is what we'll normally see. Something here in the closet, got clothes and stuff on top of it. All right.
I see a lot of tags on those portables. I've never seen that.
They're the metal ones. They can be recharged, they can be checked. They're not the plastic heads or the ones under the collar. So this is another 75 Gene. I'm not sure if this is 75 or the 90. motor yacht. This is the forward pump room. There's a fire extinguisher in the forward bilge. Now, the only thing that's there is two 110 pumps or 120 volt freshwater pumps right there. That's it. The dryers, so when you step in the hole, the dryer's right here beside you. So I asked the engineer that did this, I said, what did you put that for? Oh, we need another fire extinguisher in the front of the boat. That was his comment. Keep going. Oh, very good. Come down to touch. Engine compartment, fire suppression system installation. How many of you walk into a engine room and you see the fire extinguisher laying on its side? All the time. They are, some of those fire extinguishers, like in the Sabres, back coves, those, that is legal to do it because the way Kitty, First Alert, Badger, they have gotten it approved to where you don't get full discharge, but you do get discharge. So they really lose that size of it. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about a discharge port and the nozzles. So if we keep going down just a little bit. Go ahead. That's right. Right. You're exactly right. So you've lost the efficiency, and we're going to get to that in just 1 minute when we get down into a little bill on that. So label complies with A5 and shall be affixed to discharge port providing avoid. Okay. If you would go down a little bit further, we've got our caution label. This is what's supposed to be at the helm. Is that not right? We're supposed to have a label somewhere to tell you that what's going on here. And then the use. So if we go up a little bit further, stop. I walk in this big ass sport fishing boat. Fire extinguisher is stuck up here in the corner. That's where the agent has to get to a pair of C32s back on this corner. So not only are we talking it has to pump it that far, the only thing that's still running is the engines. The blowers are supposed to be shut down. And then all of a sudden it doesn't happen. 90 motor yachts, they shove it right here. Now who in the hell is going to take that 350-pound cylinder and test that every year? Now the shipboard, they ain't no damn tool, because guess what you got to do? You got to take the exhaust system out. You got to take the chill system out. You got to get all that out to test it.
Don't those are tool down you can like point it at.
You're full of shit too. You're not gonna blow that shit up my ass.
I'm telling you.
You know what?
Is it powder or is it gas?
It's whatever, 421. But it doesn't matter. You still got to take that damn thing out, and you still got to make sure it's got pressure. You got to make sure that your pull levers are good. You got to make sure the whole testing the system, because when you have one of those engine room fires and all it does is smolder, no fire, guess what happens? All that shit goes to the motor and nobody knows it until it's too late. That's why I'm a big fan of engine room smoke detectors, especially on big motor yachts. So keep going. Here we go. Now, port, huge one here, the look what it's right beside. Starboard one, there's no fan, it's in the back. But there is an engine room fan right there blowing it. That is not hooked into the system either. So that goes off, and you got to make sure the fire's at the top, which they did a good job at least getting it close. But you still can't walk around the front of the tank engine room because they put it right up tight against it. Keep going. All right. Same thing, back bulkhead in the corners. So how do y'all write this up? So back to that point. How would you write this up in your survey report back to the fire extinguisher locations, the fire suppression system locations, and who did you push it back to? Did you push it back to the builder because they was where they screwed up at? Or do you go after the fire company, this company here, I think this is Fireboard and this is Seafire, you go back to them and say, hey, look, you need to go inspect your system in that installation. So who do you go after?
Is this a new boat?
I can't tell you that. Who would you go after? Or who would you go and call to get back and say, look, you need to go check your systems out? Go ahead, Chris. I mean, you deal in the motor yacht world and the big boat world every day. The question is if you feel that system is not big enough or installed properly by the manufacturer, because he says, here's the book that told me how to install it as a pre-sold system by Seafire, and you see that as you're a surveyor, what would you do?
Who you working for?
Keyword. Call the manufacturer. I've had this conversation with Seafire and Fireboard. What's happening is that these guys buy these pre-engineered systems. The cables, they have one size cable for the pools, one size fits all, and they'll mount these damn things in places where you can't service them. That gives them more heartburn than anybody. If you would keep going. Agent might not be satisfactory distribution. If you would keep going. Stop. Manufacturer installed it. All right, go down just a touch. No, the other way, sorry. Go back. The other right way down. All right. How many do outboards with generators in the stern of the boat? Everybody's doing them. So fountain 38 with a generator in the back. So in a gas boat, protected. But there's no fire, there's not a fire extinguisher or a fire port in that compartment. So how would you write that up, Bill? Weigh it? Would you call fountain up and say they screwed up? Brand new construction right out of the factory. Right in the factory. That's where that one is, right here. I did that one. I work in the fountain factory too, so I get to see these really fucked up things. Right. Okay. So then let's add into the next dimension of that in just a minute. So y'all remember this picture because it's going to come back to life. So if you would go up, please. There's not enough air in that compartment either for that generator. There'll be placards and stuff. All right. Back to our machinery spaces where we're locating. So when you walk in, you know, normally we'll see them at the front, but you notice there's no fans in the front of this engine room. And this is, but that fire, I challenged them on the size of this, but it has to come back 17 feet from here to the back bulkhead. And keep going, because I want you right here. Calculations, that includes a lazarette, no overhead sensor sighted, no engine room smoke detector, requirement for fire suppression on exhaust fan suppression, which is required, DC removal, discharge. And I'll explain about that in a second, and what the installation structures say. All right, if you go up, please. Right, go one more up just a touch. One more, a little bit more. Thank you. A little bit more. So when we look in this hatch here, this is the end of the lazarette. This is 16 feet from here. There, so it's probably here to the where he's asleep in the chair. So we're right there. Now this fire suppression system is supposed to put out a fire in this whole room. There's a door, which I know will not get closed. There's 2 gyros, and the engine room, then the lazarette goes to there. So according to fire suppression people, is that you're supposed to calculate for all of this, or you have to add another system in series that can be activated at the same time and pulled at the same time. So go back up. No, well, back, not down, up. All right, hold. So the calculations did include the gyro compartment, which I call bullshit on. The delta T's were configured to discharge and override the current circuit, which is kind of standard for them. They're pretty good about that. And then the fire pool is readily accessible. So how many people have gone and pulled those old Detroit pool T-handles and try to make them come shut a Detroit down? Most of the time they're froze up. You go pull on a fire pool cord, you got to better make sure somebody's in the engine room. But they usually have about 1.5 inches of pull. They're froze up when they mount them on the outside because of salt buildup in there. However, this manufacturer chooses to put it underneath the console, which you wash your boat down, you fill it up with fresh water, salt water. If you would keep going, please. Well, you know what? That is when you hope that the fire suppression guy is like within 5 minutes when you're there to survey that, because if you pull that pull cord and that thing goes off, you become accountable for that. But they do, the way this builder has installed theirs is that if that discharge does go off, there is a voltage pump, a 24-volt pump that will evacuate that engine room of that instead of opening it up. It will evacuate it. Everything's supposed to be shut down, but it's not. That's the question that we're having with them. So here, I can't, because I'm not the fire suppression expert. So that's something you put in your report. So it's back to where are you in your report and how you would justify that in your main report. So the fire pool is right here underneath of the toe kick of the console. So when the captain's up there with his feet propped up on the console, he probably might be knocking it off. Okay, if you would keep going. This one here was an Avicem. If you go up just a little bit more. Port side engine room, starboard side engine room, dual pulls, and this alert was on the thing. However, the dual pulls were in that cabinet right here, non-labeled. So if I wrote that one up, I would probably make, and I did note it to the fellow buying the boat, is that they would need to put, at least install a label there so that you at least know where the fire pools are, because it will not, it won't go off manually without being pulled. Okay, if you keep going. How many see this? Half of the engine room is not protected. So when the fire is up here, roaring and burning the floor off, this deck will have to fall and cave in before that fire extinguisher will discharge. Some of those, y'all have seen that picture before. We'd keep going. All right. Same way again, this fire suppression system, not only did it have a fire system here, it also discharged into the pump room. Well, if you didn't have a fire sensor in the pump room because there's a door here that should be closed, how will it not, why would you be discharging your fire agent in there when there used to be one originally installed? So that system there is kind of a little bit shaky. It does have a fire pool on it. As you can see, the cable system here, the old CO2 system that will discharge. The old Chris Craft. Let me keep going. The same thing, we're just looking at old systems. If you would keep going, please. Keep going. There's a Viking installation, same thing. Fire pools, electric shut-offs, but it's all the way at the front corner of the engine room. Kind of difficult. Old charter boat, install laid on its side. Back codes I mentioned earlier. Okay, I've showed this picture and I use this one a lot. This is a custom boat builder. Nice install, he put his panel here. But then all of a sudden he needed a place to put his fire suppression system. So he mounted it at the lowest point in his engine room that he could mount it to. I mean, there's the air conditioner pump on the other side of this. So he mounted, if you want the next picture up, it shows you the actual installation of it. There it is. Is that properly installed? This builder did move it to a higher location, however, but it's like pulling two teeth with the old crowbar. It was really a pain in the ass, okay? If you keep going. Same thing again, back to access, fire suppression, blowers. Do they turn off like on the custom boats? Are they all wired in together with the ignition switch? Keep going. Things that you have to check. Some we can and we can't. If you keep going. One of the things that we look at, or we try to make sure, I think this is what somebody asked earlier, what kind of agent it was. So we want to make sure it's clear agent, if that's the type of fire extinguisher it is. These companies are pretty good about talking about the system, the date, the maintenance of it, whether it's annual inspection or what. How many of y'all seen these fire ports, back of bulkheads? We see them a lot. There's one of these little sport boats now that has it all the time because they don't put a fixed fire suppression. Is it MJM? One of them has it in there. Where they're using, that's an old Hatteras, but that's what they were doing before, so they didn't have to have a fixed fire suppression. And inside the door, there'll be a 10-pound CO2 or halon, big old fire extinguisher. Just knock the port out and keep going. All right. Back to the tugs again. I still never figured out, if you're working in winter conditions, who's going to walk on that hot ass deck to grab that fire bottle and put the fire out. That ain't going to happen. If you got a Gumby suit on, that dude's jumping over the side of the boat. Right there, wrapped up in the paint locker. It's right there by the paint locker. Great place for it, but it's not suitable, and keep going. But at least it's on the main deck and you get to it, not on the upper deck. The best one so far is, this is the winch motor, and the portable is inside, aft of the motor, and all the hoses, and they got all these tools blocking it. So for you to get to that, it's going to be a pretty significant effort to get that out to be able to discharge that fire. Life raft installation. How many of you see this?
Life raft says it has to be free to float.
Has to be secured. Hydrostat has to be in working order. So as you can see here that it's not secured. Hydrostat, I don't see one here. All it is bungee to the boat. Keep going. This is what happens when one goes wrong. You see all these express boats, they mount them right here because it's the only place to put them. This boat was being towed, it tripped the tow, and the life raft ended up in the tuna tower as it was being towed off of Cape Cod. Like I told you, I can't make this stuff up. However, when we have opportunities to take great pictures and it becomes an educational tool, I like to bring it forward and say, look, this is what we have. That boat's been restored and it's back in work. High water bilge alarms. Brand new boat. Date code 920. Ready to go to New York. Half bilge. First thing I saw, where's the high water bilge alarm? Fit. What's the rule say? ABYC. All vessels was 1992 or something like that. 2005. Is it 2005 they have to be installed? You see one there? Nope. So that was on my, no, there wasn't one there. Here's another one here. Same type of configuration. Nothing in here. All you see is the bilge pumps and these bilges. All of them are relatively new boats. All right. Who does wooden boats? Old school, new school, doesn't matter. All right. Bill, what's the ruling on a bonded old wooden boat? Is an old wooden boat bonded or not bonded? We're going to see some of those here in a second. This is a relatively new boat. It's not bonded because they feel that they just didn't do it. However, should it be bonded? The only thing that's connected to the underwater is the motors running out the back and the running gear. Okay, keep going. Struts or rudder ports the same way, not bonded, not connected. Just another zinc you got to keep up with. All righty. Accessibility. This is the third reason I think boats sink. Because if you can't access that engine compartment or that space, keep going, you can't get to those valves to turn them off, can you? So I had a Detroit catch on fire a month ago. Turbo fire. As soon as it turned the motor off, the fire went out, didn't it? Because it quit burning fuel. But if you can't turn that valve off, especially these, because this manufacturer, they got valves with locks on them. And you couldn't pull it because the lock was locked down in the open position. So you got to be really careful on those, is because they had to go back and take all those out and redo them because the boat was getting ready to ship. So this is what I told them. So in my opinion, port and starboard aft through holes cannot be reached for quickly and effective use under emergency conditions without the use of tools. Go back up. This is directly behind those right there. And I see some fellas in this room that would be damn sure pressed to even get their arm in there. Not only could they crawl in there to get it done, maybe that young fella John might go crawl in there, but I don't see anybody else can get in here. Chris, I know you ain't gonna crawl in that hole, are you? Yeah, I would too. So this is what we're battling up against, and this is new construction. You're seeing new boats being built with these deficiencies already right out of the gate. Keep going. And keep going. That was from Boat Builder magazine, you know, just talking about the accessibility. And then the one that's our favorite is the uncovered ground wires. At least this guy had the right combination over the terminal and over the stud post. So they are available. And then we got the rest of them that we see in our bilges. Terminal blocks, not protected. Rule says it needs to be protected, prevent any kind of accidental contact. And how many have been burned by a 48 volt system? That's pretty heavy hill. 36, 24, 12. 12 will light your ass up, especially in 8D. You lay across with a wet sleeve, and it will make you walk out the door. Marpole placards, we're seeing more and more of them. At least they're putting them on the boats, or they put them in the paperwork. There's usually one on board the boat. And they got a couple different types. Who's doing waste management plans? Who carries one in their back pocket just to give it to the customer or email it to them? Huh? Email it to them. Yeah, and the reason why is because it's part of the Coast Guard criteria. And if you keep going, that's exactly right. All right, so go back up just a touch. So not only are we doing this, and there's our CFR, inland rule books is the other one that gets everybody in trouble. Both of those. And then the rest of it just kind of falls in place. But those two there, if most surveyors will at least make a note of it, hopefully they do.
And whether it's a finding,
Well, A findings and the general standards is it's significant or serious safety. I don't consider that serious safety,
but I do consider it as a B finding, which you will get a ticket for.
Okay. EPIRB registrations, typical. Thowable rings not accessible, buried underneath of a brow, along with everything else they can put on top of it.
Huh? Go ahead.
Back up. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Everybody looks at these EPIRBs and they look at the expiration date of the EPIRB. There's a battery.
Yeah.
And it has a separate, different expiration date. Don't forget it.
Right. There's two dates. There's a date here, and sorry to get the other picture, Chris, you're exactly right. And the other date is right. I'm not sure if it's, there it is, right. I'm not sure if it's that one or that side, but there is a date on the other side of it. One is your annual registration, and the other is the actual date you have for the battery. Sorry about that. Keep going. All right. Flares. My God. That'll get you home. That is a safety issue. There's so many daggone different texts on it, but they do expire after 42 months of date of manufacturer. That's the rule right here. How many are using that, the new flare? The Payne Weems and Plath strobe. Have you ever put one in the water to see if it works or not? Still, it's battery power still, right? It's not water activated. Also, it doesn't shoot out a big spark. So if you look at the rules, is that does comply with the rules, but you have to have, for daytime operation, you have to have a flag. So you got to have both instead of having, so keep going. And you can see the different rules. One of the things that we found, who does subchapter T boats in inland waters, lakes, rivers, streams, stuff like that? Why is it that Orion makes flare kits with 4 flares in it? The rule says,
that's offshore, but right here, vessel, lakes, bays, and rivers, 3 handheld red, approved
with
3 orange,
or something like that. I think that's right. Isn't that right? 3 and 3. So why does Orion,
oh yeah, I got the right 3s.
Why is it that Orion sells us flare kits with 4, or they sell the multi-pack with 4 orange?
No, 4 reds and 2 orange.
Those don't even work. It comes 3 and 1.
4, no. Some of them come 4 and 2. But it's no, that's the big pack. This is the regular small pack that's got 4 and 2 on it. Why isn't it 3 and 3? Seems to me like that's a Coast Guard issue, because one of the young essays that I worked with for Murrells Inlet, we did a T-boat, and he went and did his research because I said, oh, this is screwed up. And that's what he came back with. He said, this got to be 3 and 3. Wrote it up as non-compliant in accordance with T-boat. And it's also in, not some small crap. Should be 3 and 3.
It's like
What?
8 hot dog buns and 10 of the hot dog pack.
Yes, it's the same thing. All right, here we go. We're back to our flares. So this guy had flares all over the boat. He had EPIRBs and EPIRB bags, extra throwable. He had more shit. How many of you deal with lightning strikes? I love this quote here. Hold on, keep on going. Okay, here we go. The wire bottle brush statically displaced may be useful at dissipating seagulls. Now, I thought that was pretty good because I was reading, but back to the serious part of it, this is where my builder and I have this discussion about most bonding systems, minimum of 8, 6 for lightning protection, or you can do with number 4 with primary, which is like off a mast to a keel bolt or something of that nature. So if we keep going, the rest of it's okay. Brand new construction. This was a number 18 wire as part of the bonding system. The factory went out there and said, oh, bullshit. I said, man, you got to have some number 8 wire. Oh, no. 18 is just fine. I go send them the ABYC thing off the book. Sure enough, they went back and had to change all these difficult wires to get to. That's the first thing I check on every boat I do. Keep one. It's good. All right. Hull ID numbers. Neptunus. Did one in New York this summer. It had two different numbers on it. It had an MPT number and it had some other, but it's, from what I understand, is depends on who the builder is, not the builder, but who the broker is or the dealer is. It comes in underneath of their names, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. This is a Horizon, brand new, 2018, and it had, if you would go up please just a little bit so I can get everything up here that they need to see. All right, very good. Horizon, HYI, registered to North Palm Beach. HRN, registered to Pasadena, Maryland. All the fuel tanks in the boat had those placards with that Hull ID number on it. The stern and the documentation had that number on it. How'd you write that up, Randy Wren? Two different Hull ID numbers. Coast Guard documentation gives me the bottom one, but there's another one in there which would be problematic if some smart-ass surveyor goes and catches it and says, hey, look, you got a problem here. You go back to China or wherever. If you would keep going. Stop. How many do custom sport fishing boats? These little boats they build up on the bay, there's bait, draggers and stuff like that. What do you see most of the time? You'll see a state number or you'll see a documentation number. And it's usually buried somewhere where you can't get to it. Well, Buddy Kennedy, the old local boy at home, 1995, no Hull ID number. So what do you do for that? BC's dead. And at that time, he didn't have a Hull ID number for his boats. But look how many times this boat changed hands. Right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. No Hull ID number. It was only traded on the documentation number. Okay? All right, Coast Guard. I'm going to ask you this really genius question here. When you issue a Z number, what does that mean? All right, Coast Guard Inspector, tell me what the Z number means. I know you learned it in school because I had to fight him the other day on it. All right.
Only Z number I'm aware of is your merchant mariner's document.
All right. Very good. At least you're honest about it.
State assigned to the number.
However, what triggers that number? I have a 1981 Seahawks. 2014 was completely rebuilt, stripped, gutted, frames tore out. The only thing that was left was just the shell of the hull. So it's not like I went to the manufacturer and I bought the hull because he closed the business and I finished the boat and I had to issue a number.
They submitted a new builder certificate for it?
No. What you do is, the guy who rebuilt the boat, this guy, I don't have his name here, there was no Hull ID number cited on the boat. However, when we surveyed it, we issued a new Hull ID number because he documented the whole internal of the boat. We put a whole new stringers, all new decks, whole new cap and everything, and we reissued a new number. This is the third one of these type of boats I did. But the dumbass, the third one I did, maybe it's the fourth one he did, he took the Hull ID number and stuck it to the bow numbers as if it was his registration number and left the old number on the stern. I wish I could find that picture. I can't find it right now. Now, what happens in the international market? This is a Panama Canal tonnage certificate with the right documentation number, which was stamped on the bulkhead. And then if we go up one more, guess what we have there? Another documentation number. So is that number, and it's sequential. See, this is 774, that's 90, so a little bit older, so 82 boat, or an 88 boat, excuse me. Is that boat internationally registered through BVI registry, European registry, somewhere like that? Because this boat did travel the world, or travel the Americas and Mexico. So if we keep going, that's something I'd be careful of because that will trip you up every time. You just got to make sure your number matches up. And that's in 42 metric tons. This is one, you can't find that number anywhere in any Coast Guard registry. It's old Harris Craft, built in Kentucky. The boat was issued with that originally. Documented, the guy said, why is the document? I said, hell, I don't know, but he's got a state number on it. Okay, keep going. Fuel piping, guards. The only thing that I changed on mine was, it says with the commandant, it says here, bowls other than construction must be approved by the commandant. This is only represents gas, but I have been told a number of times it needs to represent diesel, so I just took ad liberties and just put it in there for diesel fuel too. Because the next picture, if you come up, is what was just sold from West Marine. Plastic bowl fuel. Guys, oh man, the guy said it was perfect. Why in the hell is West Marine selling these to people buying gas? I mean,
I think that's okay if it's outside of the machinery space.
that's in the engine compartment, man. Keep going.
How about the grip protector?
They don't have none of it. There's nothing there. There's no steel bowl. There's nothing there. Number 2, no locking ring, torn cover. What happens with a torn cover, Todd? Water gets in it. Electrocution, electric shock, burns up the boat. You'll sink one tomorrow morning if you're not careful. Keep going. Who was here about the mold earlier? I think he's already left. Is he still here? Mold dude still here? Check this out. What's that? Gray lint. What does gray lint do very good in an air conditioned space? Condensation, greenhouse. What do we have? Keep going. CO2 detectors, always. Now you can get the RV one for $16. Double them up. Joe's boast of them for you. And I had to go back and survey a surveyor's report to make sure that this owner complied with those restrictions. And it says, with accommodation space intended for sleeping. I was told somebody was so damn anal the other day, they made him put one in the center console. In the console itself, I said, man, you're crazy as hell. But because all it do is start chirping, battery go bad. If you would keep going. What time's it getting to be anyway?
It's 7 minutes past 4.
Okay, I got to catch a plane at 5:50. All right, I want to talk about this because this is kind of dear and near to my heart, which I've been working on. Back to my report there. These are things that we were looking for. See, the shaft log is grounded and bonded, but you can see all the weeps that's going on around in the framing. We'll keep going. It did hit hard. Keep going. Internal, this owner told me that his boat was built with 5,200. Now, 1968 Trumpy. I'm not that damn stupid. But when we were building boats, all we had was resourcinol glue. And that was when Savannah glue was coming out before West System came out and brainwashed everybody. And this was fastened internally on a double plank boat with bronze fasteners. If we keep going. Then we got all the fuzzy wood. What's causing this fuzzy wood? Anybody know what's causing that? Bill? You think not being bonded is causing that fuzzy wood? Yeah, it's fastened. But bonding don't have anything to do with that, those fasteners. The ambient condition of the bilge with the head system in there, the fresh water in the bilge, the Clorox and all the other shit that goes in the bilge there. And that's what's causing the fuzzy wood because the oil and the tannins are evaporating. Randy, is that close enough to the right answer? Delignification, yep. Designification and delignification, both are key words in this business that we're in when we do this old shit. This boat here, the reason why I didn't haul this boat is because right here, you can see the separation between the planks and the frames, planks and frames all the way back, 4 bulkheads. The other side was good and tight, and there were broken toes at the end. Keep going. Broken frame, keep going. 4 foot, did a thermal of this picture for you. This is of a 1929 Elco. What we were looking for here, we were getting ready to put a thruster in it, so we wanted to make sure where we could jet thruster in it. But you see now how hot that is? That means that this whole area is pretty well bonded. If you go to the next picture or fastened, there we go. See all your frames? There's a through hole right there, but you can look at your butt blocks. And if you see a butt block that has a little bit of obscurity to it, that means there's moisture behind it, which is giving you a different look to it. So not only those that were in Norfolk, they saw Charlie do some impressive work with that camera. So if we keep going. Broken frames. This wasn't my boat. I just thought it was interesting when I rode by it to add it to it. Oak frames, steam bent, and rotted out right through the center because of fresh water. Because on these old wooden boats, you know, they got the frame and then they got the inner and the outer gunnels all the way up on the bulwarks, and then they cap it, and the water just runs right from the top, right straight down on top of it. We keep going. There's some planking. This guy's run out of money. I've surveyed this boat twice for this guy. He ran out of money. So I don't want to go back and see him again. Keep going. Let's see here. Keep going. Coast Guard inspectors. I do battle with them about once a year. This boat was sold as is, and any modifications to the hull, they were going to have to replace about 80 or 90 square feet of bottom and the whole bow, which they did. The last time they did it, the Coast Guard saw that the exhaust had some corrosion underneath the hose. The guy got so anxious about doing it, instead of cutting out the piece of tube, put an insert in there, $90,000 last time. This time it's going to cost this dude over 100. Just to put a thruster in because he had to cut the whole transom out. You can keep going. There you go. This triggered the whole transom to be cut out because he wanted to put that in. So when he went out to California with the boat, that would work. Okay. There's the stern. Now they had already replaced all of this metal all the way across was replaced 2 years ago. They had to come back and cut the rest of it out where the platform came down because they didn't do it because that was way up. And I still haven't figured out what corroded out all the way above the waterline. I'd have been super pissed. But this is where an owner, see, that was the replacement last time. See where they cut it out? That was all new plate. That's where they cut it out. Where the owner, if he would have been smart, services you can offer is if you get involved in this stuff, you can go with these guys and say, look, let's get our engineer here, or let's get all these other people here and do battle with the Coast Guard. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose the battle. But you got to remember, if the boat's going to stay in the air, you got to deal with them next year too. That's part of this aluminum. I took scraps for next year's meeting so we can gauge it. Chris, the damn thing wasn't even, I mean, it was 5/16. You couldn't even take the lead of a pencil and put in the holes that they cut out in all that metal. Keep going. Trumpy bought from the West Coast for $400,000. Right now she sits at that dock for $2.7 million after 2 years, and they still haven't finished the damn thing. Keep going. Pretty boat. Guy's got a shit pile of money. He doesn't like to pay his bills because they've gouged the shit out of him. And I think we're getting close to the end. The roads. That's what we're here to see today. I want to see the roses in about another 2 weeks when the sun comes up. So I gave y'all a little bit of things to think about when we inspect, the things where you can't make this shit up, and how important the CFRs, when you go stand before the judge, to be able to use your supporting document and to understand that. But one thing that the attorneys don't talk to y'all much about, and this is what I was hoping he was going to talk about a little bit more, was that like this, how you read an abstract of title. And I know I got to get rolling, but there's the abstract of title. Make sure I get it right. Monday morning, I'll be sitting on the telephone at 9:30 in the court of Pennsylvania. But this is the abstract of title and how it was presented. Remember how he was talking a little bit about how there's a record that doesn't run with the boats? Well, this is the record that runs with the boat when those liens are filed against, whether it's a ship's mortgage or things like that. Then so you have a preferred ship's mortgage. Then you got all the mechanics bills, the people that are pissed off, chasing this dude down in the courts. And let me see if I can find this one document. Here it is right here.
Lloyd, do you run an abstract for every boat survey?
Shit, no. I don't have to. Look, I've never seen this before. It is called the National Terrorism Advisory System by MARAD. So I'm gonna have to ask Buzz about that next year. But this is the NAVIC database and documentation search that we've been struggling with, to keep track of that stuff. But here is the whole document for the boat. And I do look that up stuff too, because I want this information on the back to kind of tell me who the owner is, the size of the vessel. So don't be scared to take on these projects, because guess what happens? Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's going to get old and gray and forget all the information they taught you what to do as you learning how to do this trade. But So this case here should be over with on Tuesday, but this guy, he drugged the judge along till 3 because he knew I had to leave. And so
Randy, I hope I satisfied what you asked me to do.